I think. Hey, it's counting. We're on.
Hi, welcome everybody to Talk for Dodge with Mr. Todd McCubbin and myself, Jeremiahjcondon. And today, I think we're just gonna. I know it's Talk for Dodge, but we're also a real estate company, and that's what we do. So we're gonna talk a little bit about earnest money today and kind of how it works, why and how and what, and go from there.
What it is and why you need it.
Yes.
And just in a nutshell, it's basically whenever you do a contract, you have to put something out there to say, I'm serious about this contract. And earnest money is that little bit of money that says, you know what, I'm serious. Here's $500. Here's $1,000 to say I really want to do this. I really want to make this deal work.
Yeah, and not to complicate things, but it doesn't have to be money. It could be a wedding ring. It could be an item. It could be.
I really want this house.
Yeah.
It does make it tougher when it's an object, but it's money works easier.
People ask how much it should be, and people kind of make fun of Iowa because Iowa we do $500 to $1,000 and more to show people how serious you are. Sometimes that can be part of a strategy, but it's really 500 or 1,000 is what most people do in Iowa.
So I've had a couple deals where it was a cash deal, and I said we don't want to look at anybody else. So it's usually like $25,000 or $30,000 houses, and I had the buyer just put $30,000 up in earnest money on a $30,000 offer. Yep. It really shows it. Now there's no financing questions. Everything's done. So it's kind of a neat way to do that. And, it gets people's attention to say, no, here's the money. It's in your trust account. We're taking care of.
Yep, exactly. And then people say, a lot of sellers think, well, oh gosh, if the deal falls through, I automatically get the earnest money. Well, how it works is every contract that we write up, and we use the contracts from the state of Iowa, so it's a standard form that most Iowan realtors use. Yep. And what we do is it does say it's contingent upon their financing and inspections. So if something with inspections falls through, then they are entitled their earnest back. Yep. When their financing doesn't come through, whether they lose their job or maybe they owed $20,000 on something that they didn't know about or whatever, credit, something happened during the process that the bank cannot loan to them, then they also are entitled their earnest money back. Yep. And so what I tell my buyers is I've only had about 6 people lose their earnest over my 8 or 9 years. And what happens is usually if the financing is good, their inspections is good, they're moving forward, and all of a sudden something comes up and they back out of the deal. That's when they lose their earnest money.
Yep. And there's gray areas in there that you really have to look at, and they're subjective. So I mean, it's all subjective. So only you really have to look at it and really have to know
if there's neglect or something going on.
Yep. Yeah. If the loan officer says, no, we can get this done, but they have to do this, this, and this, and they're like, well, I'm not doing that, you're going to lose your earnest money. It's just kind of a weird thing, but I'm glad we have it. And Iowa's also a little different with earnest money. You go to some of the states down south, and the reason they put, if they buy a $100,000 house, they put 20% in earnest money, whatever they're going to put down, is in some states you can only sue for the amount of earnest money in that trust account if you were to take them to court afterwards. Iowa is I can't think of the word, Jim says it all the time, but we don't have limits on that. So if you were to back out of a deal and it costs the buyer or the seller money, you can be held responsible up to whatever their losses are, whether they're more than the earnest money or not. So that's another thing to think about, as you're putting an offer in on the house, are you really, really serious about buying this house? Because if you back out for no reason, not only can you be held liable for that earnest money, but you can be held liable for whatever losses that person suffers trying to sell the house to another person.
Yeah.
So there's something to think about when you do that. So
we've had those things happen.
Yes. So have I.
Well, that's a good example to bring up. An example is, someone who wasn't very serious about buying is I had a listing and a seller brought an offer and put down 2,000 earnest, which was really good, and made the offer, and the seller was excited about it. And 4 or 5 days later came back and said, we just don't want it anymore. And there was no reason why. It was also a cash, so there was no finance or whatever.
Mhm.
And in that case, the seller was really upset. And
Yeah.
the buyer went and talked to an attorney. That's what we told him to do is, it was a different realtor, a different company that was involved in that. But they did. And the attorney actually told them to just offer to forfeit the earnest money to get out of the contract. Yeah. And that might be the cheapest way and easiest way for them to get out. Otherwise, there's other legal actions that could be taken.
You signed a legal contract.
Yeah. And so I told the seller, I gave him his options, and he's like, well, let's just take the earnest and get it back on the
let's sell it to somebody else.
Back on the market. He could have went a lot deeper than that, but sometimes why? Yeah,
you got to pick your battles. You really, really do.
So the Fort Dodge market, right? Did you have anything more about earnest money?
Nope, that's it. Let's talk about the market.
Just real quick, I just pulled up all residential listings in Fort Dodge, Iowa, 42.
Remember, we did this like a month ago. There was 87.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
42. Yeah, and it ranges as low as 40,000 all the way to 497. But yeah, 42 residential active listings.
So what we're saying, if you want to sell your house, now is the perfect time. The other thing, and this is a little tidbit of news, in winter, not as many listings come up in the winter, but the buyers in the winter seem to move faster than the buyers in the summer. In the summer, you get a lot of looky-loos, people that are trying to look around, want to look at 100 houses. In the wintertime, it's let's pick one and go. It's a lot, so houses do sell in the winter. That's a fallacy to think they don't. But, I get a lot of them in the winter fast. They just move.
Well, and we had broke down what month was the strongest and which one was the weakest. And the strongest month was August of 12%. But think about that. And and the lowest month was 6, which brought an average of 8%.
Yep.
6% was the lowest. That means there's not really a month that nothing is happening.
Nope.
And so I think December was the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
At 6%.
I had a great December, and January's looking strong too.
So that wasn't even January and February, where people think is the slowest months. People are transferring jobs or moving, and when they move, they have no choice. And
what time they have to buy a house. Yep.
Yeah, it's either buy or rent, and a lot of people just don't want to rent, and that's good. I mean, that's
really good.
Has their rights and what they need to do. Sorry if it gives you a headache. I just keep spinning in my chair.
And with that, guys, I hate to cut this one short. We have a good conversation going, but I need to go sell some houses. So if you want to list your house, call me because I have buyers ready to go.
Okay.
All right,
buddy. Have a good weekend.
Yep. See you soon.
Bye.